No, I think we might, well, in the lesson, he just straight away goes into coming onto your hands and knees. Okay. So come onto your hands and knees. And now put the top of your head on the floor. And your arms are in a, and your elbows out to the side. So you're supported on your elbows and forearms, and the top of your head is on the floor. So you're not up in a push-ups position to start. You've got your forearms on the floor and your elbows are on the ground. So elbow, you're not, just that the elbows are starting off on the ground and the hands are by your side. And now begin to move so that you can shift that pressure from the back of your head to your chin. So again, he's come back to this, just rolling the pressure from the chin to the forehead and feeling how you use your back and your pelvis and how you shift the weight. So it's just like you're drawing that straight line from the forehead to your chin, and noticing as you do that how the weight shifts from your knees to the head and to your arms, and sense the movement of your spine. And what happens to the chin in relationship to your chest? So does your chin, when does your chin come closer to your chest and when does it move away? And then just sit back and take a brief interlude from that movement. And a lot of this lesson's going to come back into that same configuration. So we're going to explore this in more detail. So now return to that same position, but the difference is that you're going to interlace your hands and place them on the floor above your head. So again, it's just a slight variation of the use of your arms, but feel how, does that bring you, so your arms, they're not resting on the head, they're resting on the floor. So your interlaced hands are above your head on the floor because you're still at this point wanting your head to move. So if you've got your hands on your head, that might restrict the movement of the head. And continue to do that same movement, and you're going from the top of your head to the forehead and back. So just doing that same movement, Linda, of moving your pelvis more towards your feet and towards your head, and feeling how you create a line from your chin to your forehead, and just sensing as you do that, how does the shape of your back change? And feeling maybe between your shoulder blades, how that sternum and that part of the chest moves down to the floor as the pelvis moves back, and as it comes forward, how that part of your back tends to round more. And again, feeling how that pressure shifts from your knees, not only to the head, but to your base of support of the forearms. And you were looking before and you're all coming up with ideas for Alistair of what he could maybe look at when he does movements and they're not as comfortable. And there were things of where you place your knees, where your arms are, So for yourself during the lesson, start to think of those things, though they might not be in the instructions, but just explore them. And then take a rest. You can rest on your backs if you like. And return to that same configuration. Your hands are still interlaced. You're on your knees. The top of your head is on the floor. And you're going to, it's a similar movement, but there's a difference. So now your head is remaining in the one position, and you're going to move your back, a bit like a cat. So you're going to round your back up toward the ceiling, and then you're going to lower your back in the opposite direction. And feel how you use your pelvis as you do that, and think what happens between your two shoulder blades. Can you start really having a sense for how that area can also round as a cat and then go in the opposite direction? And just notice how you're breathing as you do that. And are you, where are you thinking? Are you thinking now just in that upper part of your back, or are you including in your image the shifting of weight on your knees and pelvis, and how the lower back can also be part of this cat-like movement? And then leave it and rest in a comfortable position. So, I mean, it was interesting, doing the different lessons of Moshe teaching this people the preparation for the judo role, and then doing the series by Dennis. And Dennis gives a rest after each step in the movement. But he does say that, he encourages people to, in his words, self-regulate. So feel free to do that. But now come back onto your knees. And it's the same position, with the difference being that the top of the head's on the floor, your hands are interlaced above your head. And you're going to now explore moving your pelvis backward and drawing that line from your forehead. And you're going to also go in the opposite direction. So you're sort of moving from the forehead toward the back of the head. And as you do that, feel the relationship of your chin to your chest. And go a few times just with your pelvis going directly backward, sort of between, in a straight line, so that you're drawing a line in the middle. And then start to take your pelvis more towards, say, the right leg. And feel how that changes the line that you draw on your forehead. So then it becomes a line more out to the right side, and then you come back. And then you do the same movement towards the other leg. So exploring how the different place that your pelvis goes, how that changes where you feel the line being drawn from the forehead toward the back of the head. And also you can feel, what in a sense the slight asymmetry, how that causes your back to move in a different way. And notice the position of your head. And if you want it to be doing this asymmetry, does it mean that your head remains in the midline, or does it move a little bit to the side? And how can you have that idea of involving that rounding of the back as the pelvis comes forward to allow you to come a little bit more towards the back of your head? And continue the movement, but just bring your pelvis now a few times, forward, not to one leg or the other leg, but just bringing it forward, and feel as the pelvis comes forward what happens with your chin. And at that sort of, comfortable limit of the movement, what would happen if you had the idea of rounding your back more? So could you move your back further away from your chin and feel what that does? And then leave it and lie on your backs. So in Aikido, there are a few concepts that people alluded to earlier, and one is this concept, which is always a good party trick, the unbendable arm. And the idea is in Aikido basically that, to me, there's the way that you organize yourself ideally in an Aikido technique is how Feldenkrais, would talk about potent posture, that you are thinking of your feet being grounded, how you shift weight, your spine is long, there's freedom of movement in your head. But your arms in Aikido, there's a concept called the spokes and the wheel. And we'll go into that a bit later, but the idea with the unbendable arm is that you have a certain tonal quality in your arm that makes it strong. And it's not only, I think, the tonus of the arm, but it's also where your attention is. So if you localize your attention on the arm and someone pushes down and you say, I haven't got enough tonus and the arm is a bit floppy, it'll just bend. And on the other extreme, if you're holding a lot of tension in the arm and really trying to keep it strong and localized on that arm, again, there's a weakness in it and a person can easily bend your arm. So there's this sort of tonus of and equipoise, I think is the right word, and you're extending your tension and not focusing on what's happening locally, but extending it around you Then when somebody pushes, they're going to have a lot of difficulty bending your arm. But now we're going to leave that idea and you're going to come back onto your knees once more. And the top of your head is on the floor. And this time your hands aren't interlaced, but your elbows are out to the side. So they're not in a push-ups position, but the elbows are on the floor. And you start off with the top of your head on the floor. But think of the movement that you did previously of moving your pelvis towards one leg and the other, and use that movement to now roll your pelvis back, but you're going to sort of shift the pressure on your face so that the right side of your face can come toward the floor. So you've got to organize where you take your pelvis to allow that right side of the face to come toward the floor. And then you come back, and then you do the same toward the left side. So the pelvis has to move, you have to organize your back, shift the weight across your forearms to allow the head to roll more to one side than the other. And you know, if you can learn from your side, so it's easy, say, to do the movement so that the right cheek comes to the floor. You might do that and notice how you shift the weight across your arms. And if it's not as easy going to the other side, do you need to change the position of your arms to do so? Do you need to change the position of your knees? And continue the movement. And as your left cheek comes to the floor, have the idea that you could roll your head a little bit to look toward the ceiling. And then do the same thing on the other side. So when the right side of your face is on the floor, you look to the left. And when the left side of your face is on the floor, you look to the right. And watching Moshe teaching these lessons, he goes much quicker than we've been going. And a lot of people, have a sneak peek and look how other people are doing the movement. So though that's not often what we learn through our senses, and that's one of our senses, so that's also another possibility. And then leave it and take a rest on your back. And find a way to transition back onto your knees. And you're going to this time have the right side of your face on the floor. And your arms start off in a push-ups position. And begin to take your right arm through to the left. So I've done this movement now several times of taking the right arm underneath you toward the left. And feel, what do you do with your head? And go in and out a few times. So the right arm comes underneath you. And the head follows the right arm. And then bring your left foot into a running position with the toes bent underneath. And start to straighten your left knee. So you're going up and down, you're straightening the left knee, then you're feeling that pathway of the movement from the foot up through the pelvis to the opposite shoulder. The hand, can either take it in and out or just leave it where it is. But feel, what do you do with the arm that's in a push-ups position? Where could you place that arm to make this movement easier so that it can give you more support? Would it be better lower down or above your head? So the arm can be in a push-ups position, but it's providing you with more support. And just feel that diagonal force from your toes through to the right shoulder. And then leave it. And just rest back on your knees or find a comfortable place to take a brief pause. And then come back onto that same configuration, but with the left cheek on the floor. And bring the left arm through towards the right. And bring the foot into the running position and start to do the movement. And feel how it is on this side. And sense that the arm that's in a push-ups position, where can you put it? If you put it further over your head or out to the side, so somewhere on the floor, but is there a place that it can assist you with the movement? Okay, and then I'm thinking we'll just have a look at a few different ways that people organise themselves in this movement. So how about, I'm not going to say a lot, but I think if you just watch a few people, it might give you a few ideas of what you do. So I was thinking, if maybe, are you happy, Alistair, if we look at you? I'm thinking of Alice and Dina, Mia and Nina, if you want to do that movement to whichever your preferred side is, but really look at the different positions that they have their head, what happens in there. So I think if you do it at the same time, are you happy, maybe you happy to do it as well, Mia? You happy to do the movement? And don't think, just do it how you were doing it. Don't think that you have to. Okay. But you can look at how the head is, and also, what happens in the upper back and the use of the pelvis and legs, and how far, what they do in a sense to get the head in that position. So Mia's moved the hand in a push-ups position as Nina has more over the head. Okay. And do you want to just look at a few other people? I thought, Julieta, do you want to do it? Because I think you're just happy to do it here. Because I think you were doing it in a slightly different way across your shoulders. But just do it how you were doing it. And, you can look at the relationship of the knees, how close they have the knees to their shoulders. And the position of the head. And you can see that pathway, from the foot up into the shoulder. Yeah, the hands are in a different position. I think the head's, Mia had her head very much tucked underneath when Julieta hasn't got her arm as much underneath the gap. Yeah. Mm.
Would that allow you to get your head through more? Yay. Yeah. And now is your right knee freer? There she goes. This is the same thing he was playing with who's the little girl? Elizabeth. We're looking for where do we shift the weight, and then doesn't mean the weight has to stay there. If we've found somewhere else to put it, it can become free. Yeah. So I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but sometimes if you just always find shift weight, come free. Doesn't mean that shift, where it is shifted weight.
Okay, back to your mats. Okay, so now come onto your knees, and you've got your right ear on the floor and your right arm is through to the left. And you're straightening your left knee. And do that a few times, and maybe just having done those observations, as you do the movement a few times now think of where you shift your weight across your pelvis and your knees and how that might influence the movement. And then you're going to bring the hand that's in a push-ups position onto your forehead, and the knee stays straight, and you're going to roll your head to look toward the ceiling and then toward the floor. But, you know, take your time, and I think it's, you know, worthwhile having, as I say, seeing those people and Julie, you know, talking about the direction that you shift your pelvis. Find if there's some change that you can make that's also going to allow you to do this variation of rolling your head up toward the ceiling and then toward the floor. And, you know, do as much as suits you. And then when you've explored this side, you're going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'll leave it to you, but, you know, do a little bit on one side and then again, you know, thinking through how is this second side different? Do you move your pelvis over up into the air and straighten that knee in a different trajectory? Does the arm come through in a different place? How does the head organise? And when do you bring the hand to the forehead and use the hand to just roll your head very gently and within comfort, a little bit more to look toward the ceiling so the back of the head comes more towards the floor. And then let it go and take a rest. And just have a lie down on your backs. So this idea in Aikido of the spokes and the wheel, you know, if you think of the image of the wheel, you have your, I'm going for the bike wheel because I like cycling. But, you know, if you think of the hub in the centre and that the spokes come out and they connect to the rim of the wheel or to the tyre. And so the idea in Aikido is that what in Aikido jargon, the centre, or what we would think of as the pelvis and the abdomen, how that connects to the arms. So your arms are the spokes. And so with that quality of the arms, that the idea is that there's that connection. So if my arms are too floppy or if they're too tense, as I move my hub, there's not going to be that same transmission to the rim of the wheel. And Aikido, a lot of techniques are either done on the knees or in standing. So of course you've got to have a lot of information and your feet in certain places so that you have a foundation to move your pelvis and to shift your weight, because it's going to be that shift of weight that'll come into the pelvis and up into your arms. And in a sense, you know, that's what you're exploring here. So now come on to your knees once more, and your right is on the floor. But you're going to have a change in where you put your right arm. So the right cheek is on the floor, you're on your knees, your left arm's in a push-ups position, and the right arm is going to be out on the floor on the right side. So it's more out at shoulder level. So it's like the right arm is somewhere on the floor at shoulder level. The elbow's not bent, the arm's straight out to the side. But if it's possible, it's somewhere towards shoulder level, and you're going to start, and the palm will be up, you know, most likely up, for me it was easy up toward the ceiling, but the palm's on the floor, but the right elbow is straight. but more towards shoulder level. Because what you're going to do is you're going to go back to that movement of pushing through the left foot, and as you do, you're feeling the connection to the right shoulder and sensing how can the right arm roll as you transmit that weight. So think of your shoulder having to move, the arm has to roll, and just go backwards and forwards. You can bring your knee back down to the ground, and you might want to explore a slightly different use of your pelvis, of how you shift the weight. And the left arm, again, think of where the arm that's in a push-ups position, where can you place it? Is it more over your head that's going to make the movement easier so you can get more support from it? Is it closer to you or further away? But feel how you can start to roll over that right arm, and it might just be that the right shoulder comes more to the floor. And feel what happens in your chest and upper back, how that upper back can round up toward the ceiling, if that makes a difference. How the chin moves in relationship to your chest. And look to the ceiling as you push through the foot. And play with the position of the right arm. So it might be easier to do the movement if it's lower down, somewhere maybe more towards the knee or further towards the head. And leave it and take a rest. And as this is a relatively symmetrical lesson, you're now going to come up and do the same thing with the left side of your face on the floor. So the left arm is out to the left, somewhere at shoulder level. The left side of the face is on the floor. And you're starting again here now to explore how you can push through the right foot and how the movement goes up into your left shoulder and how that allows the arm to roll and how the left shoulder might come closer towards the floor. So the arm in this position, does it make some change across your shoulders and chest that makes it easier for the shoulder to come to the floor and to have that idea of rolling over it? And again, thinking of what happens to the chin in relationship to your chest and to that area between your shoulder blades, and where you place your head in relationship to your chest and underneath the gap. And explore the different positions of the left arm out to your side and feel, is it easy if the arms are more perpendicular or if it's closer down towards your knees? Now, what does that change of the placement of the arm, how does that allow something else to happen in your chest? Or how you shift the weight from your foot to the knee up through your back. And leave it and take a rest. And as I was saying about the spokes and the wheel concept in Aikido, and yesterday how we have this sort of, what my sensei would say, cycling of attention, that we interact with the person in the technique, we sense when we get stuck, then we make a change to our focus of our attention and how we organise ourselves, if it's changing our base of support, if it's reaching out more with our arms or with our mind, and then we continue with the technique. But there's also this idea of, just that importance of where the legs are and the feet. And, the pelvis is the powerhouse, as we all know. And also, how the trajectories of the movement, which we're going to now explore more. So come up with the right side of your face on the floor, your right arm out to the right. And this time both feet are going to be in the running position. So your toes are tucked under so that you can push through them. And your right arm's out to the right. It's not underneath you, but it's out to the right. And you start by pushing through the toes of your left leg and feeling how the knee comes away from the floor. And then you start exploring how you could push through the toes on the right leg and bring the right knee into the air. So you've got both of your toes are tucked under, and you're starting to sense how can both knees come into the air. And again, remember where you place your head. It's under the gap and it's rolling towards the ceiling. And just feel, now how can one leg come into the air and then the other leg? And then possibly both knees can come away from the floor. And this is the first approximation of this. So we're going to come back to this in various different ways. So just do a little bit. And feel, it's a huge difference of trying to bring up that second leg. And then have a little pause, maybe just sit back on your knees. And then come back and do it with the left side of your face on the floor and the left arm out to the side. And see if by doing it to the other side, if you organise yourself differently, does the pelvis move in a different pathway? Because now, you're going to really have to shift your weight in a different way. And even if you just bring the second leg up a little bit into the air, that's fine. Or it might be easy bringing both feet up at the one time. And remember the rolling of the arm. And have a rest. Now, I know I found that really challenging when I was doing it, even after a variety of attempts. So the next instruction, and I think either just, I'll leave it up to you. If you were still having to work out how to bring both knees into the air, just stick with that. But for those of you who can bring both legs up into the air, what you're going to do is you're going to everyone bring their right side of their face on the floor and the right arms out to the right. That is everyone who wants to continue. And then either just explore the straightening of both legs and sensing how that could become more of a possibility. But if you can easily bring both legs into the air, start walking your feet in an arc around to the left. And again, you know, how attached are you to doing the second instruction? Because it really, you know, just stick with where you're at and explore whatever elements you want to. To the left. And I had that question as well, Alison, because I just thought, how the hell do you do that? So I checked my notes and he says to the left. So he says towards your head to the left. And then let it go and rest on your backs. And I mean, it's a weird and wonderful movement. But it does require, you know, a lot of organisation throughout your back and chest to do it. And to finish with, we're going to do this, you're going to be quite surprised. We're going to do a different movement. So you're going to stay on your backs, you're going to bend your knees, and you're going to bring your legs overhead. So you're just going to start by bringing your legs overhead towards the floor. And again, either just play with bringing your legs overhead towards the floor, and if you would like, you could bend your left arm and bring it again up like into that sort of, you know, that gate position. So the palms on the floor, the fingers are pointing down towards your feet and the elbows in the air, and the right arm is out to the side. And then you're going to play with walking your feet around your head in that position. So it's the same movement, but we're coming at it from the opposite direction. One arm's out to the side and one arm sort of in that push-ups position. But this is where we're going to go later in the day with the lesson. So he finishes with, you know, that movement just maybe to keep you curious for the next lesson. He's going, I think, Chelsea, just play with moving your feet a little bit left and right. And then leave it and take a rest on your back. And just as you, it's tempting to do, isn't it, for some of us? And then have a lie down, resting on your back, and just gently roll your head from side to side. And as you did yesterday, explore the movement of your eyes with rolling your head. Roll the eyes and the head together, and the eyes and head in opposites, and then together. And let the movement become smaller and smaller until your head pauses. And you might feel, how far down your spine can you feel this movement now? And then leave it alone and come up to standing. And just feel, how is it when you stand? How grounded do you feel? What's it done to your sense of being integrated? And then have a walk around the room. And we'll take a break.